Okay, we're just looking at the homework for lesson one, which is all about a little bit of a review from what you should have learned in grade 9. So I'm just going to walk you through this very, very quick. Whenever we're taking up homework, it normally happens very quickly, and I'm going to show you how I did this. Not as much explanations as you're going to get from the lessons. So first thing we're doing is collecting like terms. Here it's nice and easy because everything has the exact same variable. We have an x here. So what do? You need to look at the coefficients, which is that number in front of our x. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 3x minus 2x. So what you do there is you say 3 minus 2 gives me 1x, and I don't want to write 1x, so I'll just write x, plus 7x, and that will give me 8x. Because x plus 7x is really like saying 1x plus 7x. And what's 1 plus 7? Well, it's 8. So we end up with 8x. Okay, next thing we want to do is we want to take a look at this one over here. So what we're going to do, we're going to arrange everything in terms of its power. So we have p squared. We want to get the other p squared right beside it. So we're going to bring that plus 6p squared beside it. That plus 3p we can just move over there. And then minus p. So all we did is just shuffle the order of those things just to make it a little easier for us. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to say minus 5p squared plus 6p squared. So you look at minus 5 plus 6. Minus 5 plus 6 on your calculator is going to give you 1. So we don't really write the 1. We'll just write p squared. And then we have 3p minus 1p. So 3 minus 1 is going to be 2p. Okay, next we use the distributive property. 5, we multiply that in. So we're going to take the 5, multiply it by 3, and we're going to get 15x. 5 multiplied with 3. Well, it's actually not just 3. Remember, it's negative 3. It always takes the sign of what's in front of it. So we're going to take 5 times negative 3. That gives us minus 15. Next, we do the same thing with distributive property. We're going to distribute it into every single term. So we have 4 times 2x squared. This number only affects our coefficients. It never affects our variable or our power or anything like that. You're always just multiplying numbers with numbers. So 4 times 2 is 8x squared. And then 4 times negative 3 is minus 12x plus 8. And we could keep going and doing that. Okay, here, these brackets, these things right here, they're not actually doing anything in here. They're really not helping or distributing anything at all. But what is helping is these brackets here. These things are really important because there's a minus sign in here. So what this minus sign is, just like our distributive property from before, we need to distribute that minus sign in to every single term. And what happens there is, well, we can just write our first brackets out because there's nothing we could do there. We can just get rid of those brackets. But then this minus sign is going to distribute in. So that 2x squared now becomes minus 2x squared. And this minus 3x, well, now that negative sign affects it. It now becomes positive 3x. And this minus 3, that negative sign affects it. It becomes positive 3. And now what we'll do is what we did before. We're going to arrange everything in terms of their powers. So we have 3x squared. We're going to bring that minus 2x squared over. And then we have minus 3x plus 3x plus 3 plus 3. So all I did there, you can go back and take a look, we just rearranged everything according to their powers. So now what we do, we take 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is 1, so that just leaves us with x squared. And then we have minus 3x plus 3x. Well, those two things cancel out, so we just get 0. Don't need to write anything. And the last two things we have are those 3 there. So 3 plus 3, that gives us plus 6. Okay, next thing we're going to do. So now we're going to take this, we're going to take our 3 and multiply it with our 2. Remember, numbers only multiply with numbers, variables only multiply with variables. So this is nice and easy. So this 3 is going to multiply with the 2, we get 6. This x is going to multiply with the x, and we get x. This used to be x squared. If we throw another x on it, that becomes x cubed. All right, next. Now we have 3x times negative 2x. What's going to happen here? The 3 is going to multiply with the negative 2. We get negative 6. The x is going to multiply with the x. X times x gives you x squared. And the last thing, plus 1, that's going to multiply with the 3x. That's going to give us 3x. Nothing else we can do there. Okay, now we're going to solve some equations for x. This always involves, when you see solving, you need to think about isolation. So how do we do that? We need to move everything over away from our variable. So we're going to move this 3 over. When that happens, it becomes negative. So 6x equals 21 minus 3. 6x equals 18. Divide both sides by 6 in order to free up that x. And we get x equals 3. Now we need to do the same thing, isolate. So we need to put all our variables on one side. So I'm going to bring that 5x over to this side. Perfect. And now I'm going to bring that 7 over there. So that way I have all my x's on the left, all my numbers on the right. We could have flip-flopped it, but this is just what I decided to do. 3x, that 5x becomes minus 5x. And then we have that negative 1. And then that positive 7 becomes minus 7. So when we do the math here, 3x minus 5x gives us negative 2x equals minus 1 minus 7 is negative 8. Divide both sides by negative 2, and we have x equals positive 4. Okay, here it tells us y equals 7, so this is going to be beautiful. So we have 6x plus 15 equals 3 times y, but y isn't y anymore, y is 7. So what we do is we put little brackets here to substitute our value in for y. 7 minus 3. And now we're going to do the same thing as we did last time. We're going to isolate, so we'll bring that 15 over and put it over here. So we have 6x equals 3 times 7 is 21, minus 3, and then this positive 15 became negative 15. So we do that, we get 6x equals 21 minus 3 is 18, minus 15 is 3. So we get 6x equals 3, and now we need to isolate for x. So divide this side by 6, divide this side by 6, and we get x equals 3 divided by 6. On your calculator there, it's going to give you 1 divided by 2, or 0.5. Write the following fraction as a percent. Now this is nice and easy. What you're going to do on your calculator, you're going to go 15 divided by 25. That's going to give you 0.6. Now what you want to do is you want to multiply that by 100%. So just multiply it by 100, and that is going to give you 60%. Okay, reduce this to lowest terms. This means we must use a fraction. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is going to become 21 divided by 14. If you put that on your calculator, you can actually do that on your calculator if you have a fraction button. Normally it looks like ABC. It might have some lines on it, but if you have like an AB or ABC button, this will do it for you. But what this is in lowest terms, divide the top by 7, divide the bottom by 7, you're going to get 3 divided by 2. Okay, here it says 8 liters of milk costs $8.96. So 8 liters equals $8.96. How much is 1 liter of milk then? I want to figure out what's 1 liter. So if 8 liters is $8.96, 1 liter is what? Well, we don't know, so we'll put a little x there. And now you need to look at something called cross multiplication. Hopefully we're good at this. So what do we do there? Cross multiplication. We can take that x and bring it up. We can take that 1 and multiply it up. So let's see how this looks. We're cross multiplying across our equal sign. You can do this whenever you have a fraction, an equal sign, and a fraction. It's almost like a little fraction sandwich. A fraction, equal sign, and fraction. That's exactly what we have here, so we can cross multiply. So this is going to look like this. 8 times x is going to give us 8x, and then 896 times 1 just leaves us with 896, so we just need to divide both sides by 8, divide by 8, and when you do that, you can actually throw this right in your calculator, and you're going to get a value of 1.12. All right, perfect. Okay, these questions here, this is going to deal with a little bit of slope. So when you see rate of change, this was your m value when we looked at y equals mx plus b, also called your slope. So remember, our formula was always y equals mx plus b. And these two equations up here are kind of written like that. They might use different letters, but it's the same kind of idea. Look, so you can picture that c being the y, you can picture the 4 being the m, and then we have the x, and then the plus b is actually a minus 8. So it kind of looks like it. So the rate of change here is whatever this m variable is. So the rate of change here would be 4. Our initial value, we're going to call that our b for now, or our y-intercept. And here, it's negative 8. Okay? On the other side, our m value is what's ever connected to our x, so it is 0.3. Our initial value, well, we don't have anything over here, so how do you represent that in math? Well, that means it's 0. Okay, number 8, we are going to skip. You will not have to do anything similar to that we're going to need. And number 9, we can take a look at. So determine the area of the shaded part. So the shaded part, we're really going to do this in a couple steps. First thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out what is the area of our rectangle, and we'll call that area 1. So how do you get that? You take your length, multiply it by your width, so we get 110 times 150. You throw that in your calculator, and you're going to get 16,500. Of course, that's not the area of the shaded figure because we cut out 2 little holes there. So we need to take a look at what is area 2. And area 2 is the area of a circle. Maybe you remember it's pi r squared. Now you can use the pi key. I think it's a little easier to just use 3.14 for our value of pi. And this number they gave you here, this 12, this is the entire distance of the circle. That's not what a radius is. Remember, a radius is just half of that distance. So instead of 12, we would actually be looking at our radius as 6. It's whatever half of that distance is. So we have 3.14 times 6 squared. So like I said, you can go ahead and use 3.14. You can use pi. I just think it's a lot easier to just use that 3.14 value, and you'll find most textbooks do as well. So we have 113.04. And then if we take a look at our area 3, it's going to be pi r squared again. And now we're going to have 3.14 times half of 38, which is 19. And we are going to square that. So we have 3.14 times 19 squared, and that's going to give me a very big value of 1,133.54. Now, how do we figure out the area of just the shaded part? Well, what do? Well, we can picture is we cut this gigantic gray block out, and then we cut out 2 holes. So we started off with our area 1, which is the big block, and then we cut out area 2, so we minused it, and then we cut out area 3, so we minus that. So what does that mean? We get 16,500 minus area 2, which is 113.04, minus 1133.54, and that is going to give us our total area. So let's take a look at what we get from that. You throw that in your calculator, being careful that you're copying those decimals down appropriately, and you are going to get 15,253.42. Perfect. Okay. Now, number 10, we are going to skip, actually 10 and 11, because we're not going to actually have to do this. This is actually going to be a lesson that we do in our final chapters of this course. Okay? But 12 is a little bit important here. This is a little bit of developing formulas for y equals mx plus b, some linear relations, and we are going to spend some time talking about this as well. So write an equation for each relationship. So it says a mini-putt course is special for groups. A round for 2 costs $15 plus $6 for each additional person. So let's take a look. So we have y equals mx plus b. Okay, so what do we have to do here? Well, it says a round for 2 costs $15 plus $6 for each additional person. So if we want to figure out the cost, so instead of y, maybe we should erase that and we'll put the word the cost equals m, which is our rate, and we know that that is going to be $6. So we have our rate times how many people do we have plus our base cost. So instead of using y equals mx plus b in words, this is really what this means. So our cost is going to be equal to our rate, which is 6, times the number of people we have. But remember, as long as you have 2 people, you're not going to get charged anything extra. So our cost is actually going to be however many people you bring. So x minus 2, because you get 2 people for free, plus our base cost. It says $15. So when we work it all out, our cost equals 6x when we distribute this in, minus 12 plus 15. Our cost is going to be equal to 6x plus 3. Okay, great. If we want to do the next one, we could say, okay, y equals mx plus b, and we can do the exact same kind of thing. We want to calculate the slope. How do you calculate the slope? You have to take a look at y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's something we're going to get into a little bit later. If you are interested in how to do this, like I said, we're going to hit this in just a little bit in this course. I wouldn't worry about this too much for now, but let's say you are feeling a little eager. The correct answer after you use that y2 would be that. Okay? All right, perfect. So now we're looking at Jacob. He's learning how to skateboard. He charges $18 for a skateboard rental and $12 per hour for lessons. So let's go to 0 hours for lessons, 1, 2, 3, 4. And how much does it cost? Well, it costs 18 bucks no matter what, and then $12 per hour. So if I took no lesson time, it would still cost me 18 bucks just to rent it. And if I took 1 hour, I have to add $12 to that, so it's going to be 30. If I took another hour, it'd be another 12 bucks. That's 42, and then it would keep going, 54 and 66. So what is the first differences here? That means 30 minus 18. So to calculate first difference, you look at the bottom number minus the top number. That gives me 12. And if I did 42 minus 30, that would also give me 12, 12, 12, 12. These are all the same. And if they're the same, it means linear. So whenever you have the same, it means they are linear. So now if I wanted to write an equation, well, y equals mx. What's my slope here? It's my rate, which is 12x. And what's my starting value? Well, we said when you don't have any expense or any time in your lessons, it would still cost you 18 bucks. Okay, this is what we call a partial variation because there is a starting value. You will not have to know that for this course. Now, if it cost Jacob 66 hours or $66, how many hours of lessons did he take? Well, luckily we have it right there. It took 4 hours. Okay, this 14 is actually going to be one of our first 2 lessons. We're going to be looking at something called Pythagorean theorem. And what that involves is it allows you to calculate basically the missing side of a right angle triangle. So it says we have a right angle triangle here. It says the gate is 1.7 meters wide, 2.2 meters high. What we're going to learn is how to calculate this. So I'm going to save that for now, but this is going to be something called Pythagorean theorem. So get ready for that. Okay, I'm only going to calculate a couple of these for you because I think you have a good handle on probably how to do this. So determine the player's speed, rate of change for each of the following line segments. We are looking at rise over run. So if I'm looking at A, B here, what do we have? Well, I've risen 20 and I've gone over 8. So that means my rise was 20, my run was 8. And we could go ahead and reduce that if we wanted to, or we could put it in our calculator. I'm generally a bigger fan of getting a decimal value. That's going to give me 2.5. Okay. For DE, what's my rise? Well, I didn't go up at all, so it was 0. And how far did I go over? Well, I still went over 8 seconds. That's going to be 0. That makes sense because it is flat. FG, what is my rise? Well, instead of rising, I actually fell, and I fell quite a bit here. I started at 55, and I went all the way down to 0. So I actually fell 55 spots. And how long did that take me? Well, that's a pretty steep drop here, isn't it? So it looks like it was only 8 seconds. So on your calculator, put in that negative 55 divided by 8. You're going to get 6.875, of course, a negative value. How long did it take them to reach their team's net? So look at the entire graph. It looks like it took us 44 seconds. And then it says, how long did we stay at our own net? Well, that's our little flat spot up there from D to E, so that would be 8 seconds. And how long did it take the player to get back to the opposing team's net from her team's net? This is this gigantic drop here. So if this is where we're looking at starting, all the way down at 24 to 48, that's a distance or a time span of 24 seconds. Okay, this is another ratio-based question, and we're pretty good at these now. So it says we need a recipe that calls for 7 garlic cloves, and that is going to serve 6 people. Now, how many garlic cloves if we want to serve 18 people? And look what we have here. We have a fraction sandwich. We can use cross multiplication. So we have 18 times 7 equals 6x. So really nice and easy. Always remember, you can use cross multiplication whenever you have a fraction sandwich, just like we did here. So to make this a little easier, let's take that 18 times 7, do it on our calculator. 126 equals 6x. So you can just go ahead and divide both sides by 6, divide by 6, and you're going to get x equals 21, which means we need 21 cloves. Okay, so Peggy's buying a laptop. Regular price was $7.99, but it's on sale for 22% off. What a deal. So what is the sale price? Well, the original price was $7.99. If we want to calculate how much it costs now, well, what we can do is we can take a look at how much is she saving, which we can take and say 22%, which is 0.22 as a percentage. So if you do that math, $7.99 times 0.22, the savings are $175.78. So if I want to calculate the sale price, it's going to be my original price, $7.99, minus 175.78. And that's going to give me $623.22. Okay, the taxes here. So we have the taxes on our sale price, which is $623.22 times 0.13, which is our taxes, of course. So if we take a look at that, times 0.13, our taxes are about $81.02. So how much is she actually going to pay? Well, she's going to have to pay that plus the $623.22, because unfortunately you do need to pay tax. We have $81.02 plus $623.22. That's going to give me a total of $704.24. Okay. Peggy has a part-time job at the store. She earned $208 for working 17 hours. What was Peggy's hourly wage? Well, let's take a look. She earned $208.25, working 17 hours. So let's see how much she made. We'll divide it by the number of hours she worked. So we have the $208.25 divided by 17. She's going to have to work, or she makes $12.25 per hour. So how long is it going to take her to earn all of that money? Man, she better really want this laptop. So we have $704.24. We're going to divide that by how much she makes an hour. So we're going to take our $704.24, divide it by that, and let's see what we get. Ooh, whole lot of time. 57.49 hours. Okay, perfect. Let's take a look at Ken. Ken wants to build a patio in his backyard with the dimensions shown below. Dimensions are in meters. Write an algebraic expression for the perimeter. So our perimeter equals this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. So we have 2 times 4x minus 3, because there's 2 of them, plus 2 times x plus 2, because there's 2 of those. So we'll just distribute everything in. So we have 8x minus 6 plus 2x plus 4 when we distribute that in over there. Collect our like terms, we'll have 10x minus 2. Okay, find the length, width, and the perimeter of the patio if it is 6 meters. So our length here is 4x minus 3, but now we want to substitute our value of 6 in. So that's going to give me 24 minus 3, that's going to give me a value of 21. Our width is x plus 2, which means we can substitute this in. 6 plus 2 equals 8. And our perimeter was 10x minus 2, so we can take 10 times 6 minus 2, which is going to give me 58. Okay, we're going to be doing a whole lot of graphing in this class. It's really what math's all about. and we want to try to make sure that we have a good understanding of this. So it says plot practice time down here, and we have high score over here, so maybe we can say this is a good graph because we'll use high score versus time. So our practice time, we go from basically 0 hours to 10 hours. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excellent. And our high score goes all the way up to 900. Okay, so with our high score going all the way up to 900, let's take a look. So we want to start maybe 100, 200, 300, 400, I'll start skipping 600, 800, and 1,000. Okay, so let's start plotting some of these. So at 10, they got 900. Oh, I'm off already. Let's try that again. So if I follow that line of 10 up, they got 900. At half, they got 500. 1, they got 580. 3, they got 660. Where's 3 here? 660. Perfect. 5, they got 620. 5, 620. 4, they got 420. 7, they got 860. 9, 580. 8 is 820. And 5 is 540. Okay, so there's our data. Looks okay to me. So it says draw a line of best fit. So I'm going to use a different color for this. Line of best fit is going to try to go through as many of my points as possible. So maybe something like that looks good to me. Predict how many hours a grade 9 student would have to practice to get a high score of 660. So if I look at my high score of 660, here is my 660, hits right about there, and if I draw that down, it looks like it's about 5.5 hours according to my data, because it ends up right about there. So what do we use, interpolation or extrapolation? We used interpolation because it's within our data. We don't have to guess outside of our data at all. Excellent. And I think we have reached the end. Lovely. All right, so a lot of work on our first day, but that's a good review. Make sure you are doing your quizzes. That is the most important part of this course. That's how we are grading you. You need to make sure you are doing them. There will be 20, one at least a day. You do have 2 attempts. Make sure you are using them both to get the highest score you possibly can. Any questions, feel free to email your teacher at any time. Thanks.